My name's Elizabeth Schindler, and I'm the vegan chef here at Google for the campus. And we're really fortunate to work in a company that puts such a high value on health. And today, for our Health at Google speaker series, which is hosted by OYL, our Optimize Your Life program, is privileged to have a pioneer here in the field of nutritional science. Dr. Joel Fuhrman, who's a physician, he's a nutritional science researcher and best-selling author. His most recent book, Eat to Live, which you can purchase in the back for $5, I believe.
It's not my most recent book, though.
Not the most recent.
No.
Excuse me. Well, he is a New York Times best-selling author with a whole lot of list of other credentials. But his book that we have for sale here today makes a very, very powerful statement, which made me think about its polar opposite. His book, Eat to Live, reminded me of the saying, live to eat, which a lot of Americans do without even realizing it. And Dr. Fuhrman's discoveries have revolutionized people's relationship to food. And he's here today to talk about the importance of a nutrient-dense diet. He's here to talk about how it relates to food addiction, to losing weight, and also fighting off diseases. He's going to offer practical solutions for your health that you can put into action to transform the way you think about food. So I'd like to give you Dr. Joel Fuhrman.
Thanks so much. I'm very excited to be here today and to speak to you. So it's a big thrill, and I hope you're going to get a lot out of what we're going to talk about and keep this interactive. So I'm going to speak, since we only have a limited time to be together, I'm going to speak very rapidly. And if I'm going too quickly, raise your hand and I can repeat something. You can stop me, you can interrupt me if I've covered the point too fast. But I don't want to slow down. I want to keep it going pretty quickly so I can get as much information out in the 50 minutes I'm going to be with you. And then I'll stay later. We'll try to end in time before 1 o'clock. And then maybe 5 or 10 minutes before, leaving time for questions and answers. And I'll stay, if some of you can stay later, I'll continue to answer your questions so we can get as much information so you're clear as possible with this information. All righty? So to get started, the basic premise of this presentation is that modern nutritional science has advanced to the point where we have tremendous power to affect our health destiny. And we can choose not to have a heart attack, never to have a heart attack. We don't have to have a stroke, and you don't have to get demented. You can maintain an ideal weight and never gain weight, and not be on diabetic medications, and not take high blood pressure medications and cholesterol-lowering drugs, like 90% of most Americans over the age of 60 are having to take medications. And we know that from studies around the world that Americans spend more on health care than any other country, and we have a worse healthy life expectancy to show for it. In other words, as the expenditure on health goes up, the healthy life expectancy score means the quality of your life in the last 10 years of your life goes down. And we have a very poor healthy life expectancy in America. People in the last 10 years of life have a poor quality of life in this country. Much of the world is very uneducated and ignorant about human nutrition. Yet, this information is so powerful and so important for people to know, because there are millions of people that would take the choice not to have happen to them what happens to other Americans. So yes, we can win the war on cancer, and we have a lot of important information to impart, and some of that I'll impart to you today, not all of it, just because of time limitations. And winning the war on cancer doesn't mean you wipe out all cancers. It means you wipe out the vast majority of cancers. And if we have time, I can get into that details and the statistics on that. We can go over some of those studies today, some of the effects of mushrooms on cancer, and onions on cancer, and green vegetables on cancer. And I also came up with an acronym to help people memorize the foods, the classes of foods that have the most powerful effect at reducing cancer rates. And I'll show that later, because, for example, there are studies that show that women who eat mushrooms every day have a dramatic reduction in breast cancer. One study in the Orient showed that women who ate a serving of mushrooms on a daily basis had a 64% reduced rate of breast cancer compared to women's not eating mushrooms at all. This was cooked mushrooms. But in any case, the same thing is, we'll go over some of the data, the same thing is true with onions, the same thing is true with green vegetables. So the acronym is GOMBS, GOMBBS, which stands for greens, onions, mushrooms, beans, berries, and seeds, particularly emphasizing the seeds that are high in lignans, which have been shown to have dramatic protection against breast cancer and prostate cancer, and the high lignan seeds are flax seeds and chia seeds. The 5 nuts or seeds that are high in the omega-3 fatty acids are walnuts, flax seeds, chia seeds, hemp seeds, and pumpkin seeds. Those are the 5 you should memorize, because those are the 5 seeds and nuts that are high, have the most beneficial omega-3, omega-6 fatty acid ratio. I'll say that one more time. Walnuts, flax seeds, chia seeds, hemp seeds, and pumpkin seeds are the 5. For example, women who eat a small, even a couple of grams of lignans a day have shown dramatic reduction against breast cancer by 40% or so. Yet a teaspoon of flax seeds may have about 20 milligrams of lignans. They only need it a little bit on a daily basis. It doesn't matter if you like it or not, just add a little bit to your food. Same thing with mushrooms. The study that I referenced that showed a 64% reduction in breast cancer of women who ate mushrooms were only eating 10 grams of mushrooms a day in the highest quartile of mushroom consumption. It wasn't a huge amount of mushrooms. Eat a little bit of mushrooms then. It's better than none. Okay, greens, onions, mushrooms, beans, berries, and seeds. We're going to go into some of those facts in a little more detail. And the other thing you're going to learn about in this presentation is that the reason why diets of every description fail and people don't successfully lose weight is because eating unhealthy food is powerfully addicting. And the word addiction has 2 parts to it. The one part is the high you get when you imbibe in the food, and the second part of addiction is the low you get, the feeling ill, shaky, weak, fatigue, the discomfort you get when you try to stop eating something that's unhealthy for you. Just like you're stopping shooting heroin or stopping snorting cocaine or stopping smoking cigarettes. You might have felt good while you were smoking, but try to stop. Now you're going to really feel terrible. And every addiction has those 2 components. And the reason people fail on diets of all description is because they don't address the quality of the food they're eating. They're trying to reduce quantity without addressing the micronutrient quality of what they're eating. And without addressing micronutrient quality, they build up free radicals, excitatory molecules in their tissues, which are now measurable in the urine. Now scientists can test the aldehydes and the lipofuscin, and there's a lot, and advanced glycation end products are now measurable. All these things that we used to theorize are causing inflammation and excitation in the body and cause cancer, we now can measure these in modern scientific techniques. And we find that as people eat a diet lower in nutrients, the amount of free radicals and other toxic metabolites build up in their tissues, and these toxic metabolites can function in the body as if you were smoking cigarettes or snorting cocaine. Because when you stop eating unhealthfully and you start eating on a healthy diet, your body goes through withdrawal and you can feel ill, shaky. As your body's now finally getting healthy and lowering the amount of toxic metabolites and cleaning out its tissues, you could feel fatigued, shaky, headachy, weak. You could feel lousy, even have a fever, even symptoms that may mimic a flu, even soreness in the throat, even a swollen tongue could occur because you're stopping all the junk food, the fast food and junk food you were eating. And it's important to know this because you could mistakenly think that feeling worse means that you are not doing this new way of eating isn't doing a good job for you. It's not the right way you should be eating. And you should be, and you just have to feel ill for a few days. Usually it's over within 3 or 4 days. But the point I'm making is, I'm going to discuss that right now. We're going to go into more the biochemical and some of the science behind this addiction and some of the studies I've done to document this, okay? So with that, I'll go and just get started and advance my slides. So this is based on understanding the biochemistry of food, and food gives us 2 basic subtypes of nutrients, micronutrients and macronutrients. The micronutrients are the small nutrients, the macronutrients are the big nutrients. And over on the slide it says there are 3 macronutrients, fat, carbohydrate, and protein. Those are the calorie-containing substances, nutrients in food, but there actually are 4 macronutrients. Anyone know the 4th macronutrient? Water. Water's the 4th one, which I didn't put it up there because it has no calories, but that's also something we need in large amounts. And then there are numerous micronutrients. Maybe there are thousands of micronutrients the body needs. We're classified into 3 basic groups. They don't contain calories. Those are vitamins, minerals, and phytochemicals. And so we discovered about 14 vitamins and 16 minerals back in the 1930s, and scientists thought this was fantastic. And people could just take a vitamin pill, or we could add thiamine and riboflavin to Kool-Aid and vitamin C and vitamin E to Cocoa Puffs and get enough nutrients. But in the last 20 years, we finally realized that every piece of broccoli has 1,000 different nutrients in it, and every strawberry has 700 different nutrients in it, and that micronutrients, they threw that whole large class of micronutrients into the catchphrase called phytochemicals. And the point I'm making now is the micronutrient, the major micronutrient load that's in food isn't vitamins and minerals, it's phytochemicals. Did you follow that? And without that major micronutrient load, we get dramatic immunosuppression. We get an immune system that doesn't function, laying us exposed to more dangerous infections, the abilities of viruses to mutate to more dangerous forms, to become more seriously. Like, for example, when a virus attacks the heart, and the doctor says, oh my goodness, you have a cardiomyopathy. This horrible Coxsackie virus came and destroyed your heart. Well, now we know it was a simple Coxsackie virus that has no ability to attack the heart, but in the body, that virus was able to replicate, and RNA change was occurring as the virus was replicating to evade immune system capture until it eventually became more virulent and dangerous to be able to attack the heart, because of the nutrient deficits in this person's body that allowed so much viral mutation and multiplication to occur. And the same thing occurs with regard to the immune system's defenses against cancer. And the bottom line is the American diet, that is over 60% of calories from processed foods and 26% of calories from animal products, leads to a population that's significantly immunosuppressed. And of course we have the highest cancer rates in the world. Of course, for example, I'll give you examples of, like, for example, in Korea, 50 years ago, only 1% of the population had breast cancer. And in America, it's 18%. And then in Korea, they started adopting more American ways of eating. More fast food restaurants came in, and instead of just having 40% of their diet being from white rice, a low nutrient food, now they added more processed foods like Americans did onto the white rice. So they had 70% of calories from processed foods, counting the white rice and the other junk that they got from the Americans. And they used to have 9% of calories come from animal products, and they extended that to now it's 18% of their diet comes from animal products. And the breast cancer rates, of course, went from 1% to now 12% of the population. Not as bad as 18% here, but their diet became worse and the breast cancer rates went up. In this country, we do pretty badly. We have 62% processed foods and 25% animal products. Let me just say this right here, right now, is that both animal products and processed foods do not contain phytochemicals. They don't contain antioxidants. The primary micronutrients that support normal immune system function, protecting us against cancer, are the antioxidant nutrients, vitamin E, vitamin K, vitamin C, folate, the bioflavonoids, the lignans we talked about in flax, and those seeds, remember? The polyphenols, the bioflavonoids, the things, and the phytochemicals, the isothiocyanates come from green vegetables, right? Those nutrients that we get in natural plant foods that work synergistically when the body has the full component of all those micronutrients it needs, we call it comprehensive micronutrient adequacy. It means to be really in great health, we have to meet our caloric needs with no excess, right? Because excess calories shorten our life. We have to eat less calories to meet our minimal caloric needs while having a full complement of micronutrients. In other words, achieving micronutrient adequacy in a low-calorie environment is the secret to a long, healthy life. Did you follow that? And I'm saying right now that a piece of chicken is just like a bagel. Why am I saying a piece of chicken is like a bagel? One reason why it's what?
Low nutrients, high calories.
Right. Neither one is a rich source of micronutrients and phytochemicals. They're both relatively low in micronutrients per calorie. Right? They're sources of macronutrients. They're both concentrated macronutrients, but where are those micronutrients that we need to perform our immune system? So because the American diet is so high in processed foods, pasta, oil, mayonnaise, donuts, cookies, crackers, rice cakes, breakfast bars, chips, soft drinks, right? What are we eating stuff? We're eating calories with no nutrient load. That's the formula for destruction of your health. And that's the formula for cancer. And these high glycemic, high sugar-containing sweeteners and white flour products make the body secrete excess amount of insulin. And insulin is a growth hormone that helps you deposit fat more efficiently. It also has effects to promote angiogenesis promotion. The word angiogenesis means it promotes the growth of new blood vessels that feed the fat supply, enabling fat to get more oxygen and nutrients to help it grow. It's fat-promoting hormones produced by sweets and sugar. And likewise, when you eat mushrooms and green vegetables and onions and berries and cinnamon, what do they have in them? Angiogenesis inhibitors that prevent the growth of the blood vessels feeding the fat, makes it harder for the body to deposit fat. It doesn't allow the body to deposit fat. And plus those foods are high in micronutrients and low in calories, and you can eat a lot of them and not take in money in calories as you're filling all the pegs of micronutrient adequacy that the body needs for protection against cancer. You following that so far? Not only that, the processed foods promote insulin, which we're talking about, which is cancer promoting, and fat cells in themselves produce hormones that promote inflammation and cancer. We have the most overweight population in the history of the human race, and have more overweight people than any country in the world. And I'm saying it gets worse and worse because people aren't eating enough of the right food, which suppresses appetite, helps you control cravings, get rid of food addictions, and gives you the right nutrients you need to control the excess deposition of fat. And then the high level of animal products add to that, because in America we eat so many animal products, 25 or 27%, which also hormonally promotes cancer, weight gain, and other factors, because the more high biological protein foods you eat, the more you produce hormones like growth hormone and IGF-1. And IGF-1, or insulin-like growth hormone, is linked to the higher rates of breast cancer and colon cancer and prostate cancer. You remember those studies that scientists did in the biosphere, where they found out when they take animals and you feed them less calories, the animals can double their lifespan, live 1.5 times longer. Well, they tried that with humans by feeding less calories in the biosphere, isolating them, and they measured them and sent the same biological parameters that allowed animals to live longer. And one of the parameters we know in animals that makes them live longer is lower levels of IGF-1. These growth-promoting hormones are great while you're growing, but once you're an adult, they're promoting the growth of cancers. You don't want high levels of growth hormone production and IGF-1 when you're an adult to promote prostate and especially breast cancer. So they detected the levels of these caloric-restricted humans, and they did not see the beneficial hormonal effects that they see in animals when they caloric restrict, which is lower rates of these cancer-promoting hormones. And they realized because the people were still eating about 30% of their calories from animal protein. And it wasn't until they started studying them with lower animal protein intakes and studying vegans with the lowest animal protein intakes did they actually associated IGF-1 promotion with higher rates of animal product intake. So we know that we have to reduce animal products for multiple reasons in the diet. One is to increase the level of anti-cancer phytochemicals to have more room on your plate to eat enough vegetables and berries and greens and foods of various color. And the other reason we reduce them is to reduce caloric density, because they're calorically concentrated, and fat density. And also we reduce them to lower the hormones they produce, like IGF-1, that promote breast cancer and prostate cancer. Americans only eat 10% of their calories from unrefined plant foods, fruits and vegetables and beans and nuts and seeds, yet that 10% is somewhat misrepresented because half of that's white potato, and white potato is the only vegetable that's associated because of its high glycemic effects, in some studies with high rates of cancer, in other studies with high rates of poor glucose control, more diabetes, in other studies with weight gain. In other words, the only potentially that vegetable that may have a negative effect is white potato, and that's the vegetable most Americans are eating. Taking away white potato, the other vegetables that are obviously more beneficial, Americans hardly even eat. Probably another big percent of that 10% may be ketchup. The biggest fruit Americans eat is bananas. So in other words, Americans, it's almost as if we took the best scientists in the world, the best nutritional scientists in the world, and they tried to figure out a diet style that could kill as many people as possible. Like the Taliban designed it or something. It's ridiculous the way Americans are eating. And why isn't this information getting out to the public? Why is this information new to you? Why is it strange? Why is this controversial? There's no controversy here. It shouldn't be strange, new. It's interesting, yeah. But you should have learned this in grade school. The most important information you could have learned to control your health destiny. You don't even learn in school. You graduate from professional schools, medical schools, PhDs, and you still don't have the basic information to control your basic health. It's because our economic system, because the government can't even give this information out. What you hear in magazines and what you hear based on and TV is based on what's most favorable to the advertisers. The internet's been a great way that health information got out. For me, PBS allows me to get a lot of great information out, and writing books and things like that, getting information out. But people are so confused about this. It's like politics, debating various issues, where most of this information is not controversial. It's not even debatable at this point. The evidence is simply overwhelming, and if you review it, it can't be denied. We can do so much better in America today. So the basic formula I wrote down to help you remember this concept, going back a slide, is H equals N over C, which means your healthy life expectancy is predicted by the micronutrient per calorie density of your diet. Are you on a good diet? Are you on an excellent diet? Are you on a poor diet? Well, we could somewhat ascertain that by trying to figure out what kind of micronutrients per calorie density is in your diet, and we have to consider both the amount of micronutrients and the right assortment and fulfillment of micronutrients, because if you have a suppressed immune system at risk of disease, what micronutrient might you be missing that puts you at this heightened risk of cancer or heart disease or inflammation? What particular micronutrient is the one that you're missing that's most dangerous? Anybody want to take a guess? And the answer is the one that he's missing. Did you follow that? We want to figure, because we want you to have a full comprehensive array of all the available micronutrients in a very comprehensive and complete manner, not just give you a huge amount of just a few and think that's, give them more vitamin E. Take 20,000 units of vitamin C. That's not going to help you. First of all, nutritional intake has to do with an optimal range, and taking too much can be also bad as too little, number one, and you need a full comprehensive array as many different micronutrients as possible, not to have a lot of just one or two types. You following this? So I'm just clarifying this formula, H equals N over C, has to be clarified because we want micronutrient diversity, right? Not in the achievement of micronutrient adequacy. Eating high on the micronutrient line obviously means that if we analyze all the nutrients, list 24, all the B vitamins, all the antioxidants, get a good phytochemical array and measure the glucosinolates and isothiocyanates in green vegetables that are so protective against cancer, we find that the foods that have the highest micronutrient per calorie density are, of course, green vegetables on top, followed by the non-starchy vegetables like tomatoes and mushrooms and onions, which are relatively low in starch and high in micronutrients. And fresh fruit, especially berries, beans, working our way down to starchy vegetables like potatoes and squashes and whole grains, nuts and seeds. Animal products have a more limited amount of micronutrients in them. So the people that think our diet should be mostly animal products are missing the density. They're getting a lot of calories in a lower micronutrient load, and they're not able to afford the dramatic lifespan advantage that's available to modern people. And we'll talk about that. And then, of course, rarely means foods that we should consume rarely are the foods that Americans are eating mostly, the foods like red meat, and especially processed meats, and factory-raised meats, and refined grains, processed foods like white flour products. And they gave me like bagels and pastas and breads and sweets and candy bars and cheese and dairy products and refined oils and things are all high-calorie food, very calorically rich, very low in nutrients, yet those form the basis, means most of the calories in the American diet are formed by the foods with the lowest micronutrient density and the highest caloric density. Those form the foundation of the American diet. It's the pyramid is completely upside down. If we're going to devise the pyramid based on which foods have the best association with long life, should we put the foods associated with shorter life at the base, or should we put the foods associated with longer life, less rate of cancer? What would we put at the base of a pyramid if we were going to design a diet style to afford a population the ability to live longer with less overweight people? Wouldn't you want to put the foods with the highest micronutrient per calorie density, low calorie, high micronutrient foods? So what foods should we put at the base of the pyramid? Vegetables. Vegetables, we should be eating a vegetable-based diet. And a diet to be healthy doesn't have to be vegan. You don't have to eliminate all the animal products, but you have to eliminate sufficiently enough to increase your level of micronutrients and to decrease the amount of those growth-promoting hormones. So this slide reminds me to tell you what I've already told you. GOMS, right? It reminds me to give you the GOMS: greens, onions, mushrooms, beans, berries, and seeds. I'm going to talk about some of these foods individually very briefly. For example, beans. When you pick up a can of beans, it says 200 calories a cup. It's a lot of calories for a cup of beans. But keep in mind, a good percent of those calories, maybe 40%, are called resistant starch. It's marked by the calorimetry testing in the laboratory. It's 200 calories. But in the body, you're not getting 200 calories out of a cup of beans. Because 40% of those calories they're called resistant starch because the body doesn't have the enzymes to digest those starches and break it down so it can be absorbed. So instead, the starch is broken down by bacteria in the digestive tract into short-chain fatty acids, and it's broken, so it's changed, the starch now is changed into fat, but it's broken down by bacteria in the digestive tract so far down in the digestive tract that those calories aren't being able to be absorbed into the body, because your body doesn't absorb calories well through the colon, only through the small intestines. So 90% of those calories are not biologically available to the body. But the 10% that are absorbed now as fat, the short-chain fatty acids, the primary one is called butyrate, has an effect to enhance fatty acid oxidation and has anti-inflammatory effects, has beneficial effects for weight loss. So what we're saying here is that comparing beans to other foods, other starches like rice and oats and flour and pasta and potato, well, beans have more fiber and they have more resistant starch and they have more phytochemicals, and they have more antioxidants, and they have more micronutrients, and they take longer to digest because they resist digestion, keeping you free, keeping your glucose levels stable, making you not hungry for a long time, and they're the most favorable starch source, a carbohydrate source, if you're looking to better control your diabetes or lose weight, or get yourself back to a slimmer, lower body fat where you should be. And I'm looking around the room and seeing lots of slim people that look good, but of course, as you slim and look good, you still could have too much body fat. I see plenty of people with 32-inch waist, 31-inch waist, where you pinch their waist, and instead of having a third of an inch there, they've got an inch of fat on their waist, right? They don't have a ripped stomach. They're still overweight, even though they look slim with clothing on. They're not thin enough because their diet still hasn't been designed ideally, right? So I say you have to be fit to be healthy, but you don't have to be healthy to be fit. Right? You got a lot of fit people who aren't healthy because health is a biological parameter that's based what's going on in your cells on a cellular basis, because the ability of cells to resist cancer in later life has to do with a lack of DNA methylation and broken DNA crosslinks and the cellular congestion that causes DNA damage that can only be achieved with excellent nutrition. It can't be achieved with running marathons or by being fit in the gym. But you require fitness to be in good health, but you have to put together good health and good fitness with excellent nutrition. And then you have the combination, which is giving people, which is on my mission to give you the opportunity for the longer, healthier, disease-free life. And you could choose not to, that's fine, up to you, but at least have good information so you can make a choice for yourself. With bad information, you don't even have a chance to make the choice. Right? I object so much when a person goes into a doctor with chest pain, with diabetes, with all these medical problems, and the doctor doesn't even give him a choice that he could get well without medications, without bypass surgery, without angioplasty. He doesn't have to be done these medications the rest of the life. He doesn't have to be diabetic at all. It could be reversed. But nobody even gave him the opportunity to give him a choice that nutritional excellence is the most powerful therapeutic modality for people with disease, more powerful than drugs, more powerful than angioplasty or bypass, which do not extend human lifespan. The studies on them show that people don't live longer after those procedures as people who just go through medical treatments for the same disease. If they're not in an emergency situation, they don't need those procedures. And the doctor's not telling them that advancements in nutritional science and aggressive nutritional interventions can afford that person the opportunity to drop significant amounts of weight without gastric bypass, without coronary bypass surgery, right? That this is potential to that atherosclerosis could be reversed. Your blood pressure could come back to normal again. Your chest pains can go away. The atherosclerotic blockages can actually melt away. And certainly with you guys who are young enough, you don't have to ever have them even happen to you. Why should we be running for a bus and have a heart attack? Why should that happen if it's unnecessary? I don't know about you, but I personally like sports. And at my age, I want to be still. I'm in my late 50s. I'm 58, actually. And I want to be jumping up and down on tables and I'm skiing down moguls and playing tennis at a high level and playing volleyball games, diving. I want to be enjoying my life to the fullest and maintaining my fitness and enjoyment of full activities and have my full mental and physical activities free of pain and fitness the rest of my life. And healthy eating can taste phenomenally delicious. Your taste buds adapt to it. You learn great tasting recipes. And why not be healthier? The myth is to think that you're going to lose some degree of pleasure in life if you try to take better care of your health. And people are listening to me in the back and saying, oh yeah, sure, but I'd rather be unhealthy. I'd rather die younger and fully enjoy my life, is what some people are thinking. And my answer to this is just that's like this person who smokes cigarettes. All addicts say that. Until they quit smoking, and 5 years later they said, yeah, it wasn't really true. I'm enjoying my life more now without smoking. Your taste increases when you're off the cigarettes for years. Your taste buds increase. It's the brain. I realize that food choices are not just based on science and logic, it's based on emotions and feelings, and you think you're better off that way, that's why you're eating that way. But you're not, really. Because your taste buds improve, your taste preferences improve, your knowledge and ability to make different recipes improves, and your enjoyment of life doesn't go down. You get great good health and your enjoyment of life goes up. Your pleasure with eating actually increases. It's a myth to think you're going to enjoy your life more and live shorter. You're just going to live shorter. You're not going to enjoy your life more. You're going to have less pleasure, more tragedy, more personal problems in your life if you don't take good care of your health. Okay, I don't know how I got to that discussion, but let's move back to beans, which are more fun to talk about than lecturing you on taking good care of your health. Okay, resistant starch in beans, I've discussed already. Let's review it. Slows the utilization of glycogen, promotes the good bacteria in the digestive tract because the bacteria fuel off the undigestible part of beans. Sure, they may cause a little gas if you're not used to eating them. They'll start with smaller amounts and chew them really well. Find the amount a little bit you can take that doesn't cause too much gas for you. And as you continually eating them on a regular basis, your ability to produce the right bacteria, to digest them, and not to produce the gas happens. So unfortunately, you stop having so much gas and so much fun from eating beans. But anyway, they protect against cancer and they induce weight loss. Nuts and seeds are also a favorable fat source over oil, which is 120 calories per tablespoon, because when you're eating oil, it goes right from your lips to your hips within minutes, stored away with no biological loss of calories. So you don't take almond oil, you take almonds. You don't take walnut oil, you're better off with the whole walnut. Because when you eat the whole nut or seed, the fibers, the sterols, the stanols that bind fat like a sponge make it so all that fat isn't all absorbable into the digestive tract. And some of that does come in. These sponge-like materials remain in the digestive tract, sucking fats back out of the bloodstream. And the fats it sucks out of the bloodstream are the saturated fats, the cholesterol. Nuts and seeds have shown dramatic protection against heart disease development. They facilitate the absorption of nutrients, micronutrients, when you eat them with a salad, and that's why many of my salad dressings contain nuts and seeds and tomato sauce and vinegar mixed together as opposed to oil and tomato sauce. So they might have one of my favorite dressings, I love to just blend a peeled orange with some cashews and sesame seeds with some lemon and blood orange vinegar, and it's on a salad with kiwis or strawberries. It's fantastically delicious, but I'm substituting the oil the whole nuts and seeds with more powerful health benefits compared to the oil because they're linked to reduction in weight, where the oils are linked to gaining weight. Most Americans eat 400 calories from oil a day. I don't care what kind of oil. Don't ask me, what about olive oil, flaxseed oil, this oil, that oil. It's all 120 calories per tablespoon, all types of oil. And it's all 100% biologically absorbable very quickly. And it's stored as fat immediately. And it's fat promoting, and if it's fat promoting, it's not healthy. A little bit could have been okay if you're exercising half your day and have a physical job, and if you lived 200 years ago and you're working behind a plow all day long in the field the whole day, lifting a heavy plow behind an ox. Maybe you can tolerate more oil you're burning off, but if you're sitting on your can all day long, you're not going to burn off those extra calories. So nuts and seeds are a beneficial fat source. And we're driven, the theme of this presentation was about addiction, food addiction and hunger is driven by the volume of food you eat, the space the food occupies in the stomach, right? If you're eating oil and chicken or whatever, it occupies a little space. You want to utilize the volume there by eating more things with roughage and fiber and space, right? That take up, and nutrients play a role in the feedback to the brain of how much food you can eat. Calories play a role, and addiction. And the high volume foods that occupy space are foods that are relatively low in calories. You should just roughly memorize this list, these 4 types of foods that have a very high nutrient density, but they have a very low calorie density. They're very low in calories per volume, and they all hold on to a lot of water and a lot of volume, and those are everything raw, all raw vegetables, tomatoes, carrots. When the food is raw and not cooked, the body doesn't biologically assimilate and absorb all the calories as efficiently. So a carrot cooked, you're getting more calories from than a carrot eaten raw. Did you follow that? You can't get all the calories out of a carrot eaten raw. Eat raw peppers, raw tomatoes, raw broccoli, raw snow pea pods. You're filling yourself up and you're not taking in all the calories that's present in that food, because your body can't break down all those calories if it's raw. And then, of course, cooked green vegetables are high protein, low calorie foods. Brussels sprouts, string beans, asparagus, artichokes. I love artichokes. They're low in calories. Eat a couple of artichokes, and they'll fill you up, but they're not much calories. But green vegetables are relatively high in protein because they're not mostly carbohydrate. That's why broccoli, 10 grams, one box of frozen broccoli, just 10 ounces, has 10 grams of protein. A third of your protein for the day, just in that broccoli. That's how the biggest animals, hippopotamus, gorilla, giraffe, get so big eating so much green vegetables because they eat a lot of vegetables, but these are high protein, low carbohydrate foods with a low caloric density that they can eat a lot of, and we should be eating a lot of those foods too. Did you have a question?
Is there a difference in how well cooked or raw affects the absorption of micronutrients?
Yes, definitely. The question is about if the cooking of the food affects the absorption of micronutrients, and I'll answer that quickly, and I'll go into more detail later. The answer is the most powerful anti-cancer substances come from green cruciferous vegetables, and those are called isothiocyanates, or ITCs. And the enzyme, which is called myrosinase, which breaks down the glucosinolate and converts it into the isothiocyanates, is heat sensitive. So if you cook the broccoli, you're not going to, before you chewed it, if you crush the cell, the myrosinase enzyme is in the cell wall, and the plant cells are kind of square, rectangular. So if you chew the kale, the broccoli raw, or you crush it, you're going to produce more isothiocyanates than if you cooked it and then chewed it, because the cooking isn't going to destroy the isocyanates, it's going to deactivate the enzyme that forms it while you're chewing it. Therefore, if you eat some raw, if you're making a soup and putting kale or bok choy in it, blend some of it raw before you cook it, so you activate the chemical reaction, like you blend the onion up raw, because the onion has the enzyme called allanase that makes the organosulfides that prevents cancer. So we don't want to cook the onion whole and then blend it into the soup. We want to blend it first so that gas gives off the sulfuric acid and the sulfenic acid and causes the organosulfide compounds that have all the anti-cancer effects. And then you can put that blended, smelly combination of gook into the soup to cook, because the heat won't destroy the organosulfide compounds and the isothiocyanates, but the heat could have destroyed their formation. So a rough answer to your question is that yes and no, that mushrooms are better off cooked than raw because it dissipates some of the toxins. And it's good to eat some raw vegetables with your cooked vegetables, because if you added some raw onion on your salad or some raw kale or cabbage on that salad, that the raw myrosinase and allanase in the raw vegetables would have catalyzed the reaction to produce more of the anti-cancer compounds in the portion of the meal that was cooked. So you even benefit from eating a mixed diet of raw and cooked. You even benefit from the raw food if eaten with the meal with the cooked vegetables. So you get more cooked benefit from the Brussels sprouts and the broccoli that was cooked, because you put a little raw cabbage or kale in the salad that was raw that you ate with the cooked green vegetables. So does that give you a more complete answer? Okay. And fresh fruits, of course, berries and kiwis are all great low calorie foods. So we're saying here that this body has receptors that can sense the volume and the nutrient density of food. And if you don't start to meet adequate nutrients and volume, you're going to get signals to eat more food. So your body so the people, like you guys, I don't know how many of you eat American diet. An American diet is a deadly diet. And if you eat this deadly diet, your body is going to give you signals to overeat that a person eating healthy isn't going to get. And then, you're going to overeat, you're going to eat low nutrient foods, and if you try to stop overeating, you're going to feel like crap. You're going to feel shaky and weak, and you're going to have to so you're going to have to snack. Because if you don't eat for a few hours, you're going to start to withdraw from your toxic diet, from the poisons and the toxins built up in your tissues, and you're going to feel headachy and shaky and weak and a little anxiety and stomach fluttering, and you're going to have to pop something in your mouth. You have to keep the oral behavior going. You're going to have to take some candy, go to the edge of the counter there and get some, snacks, keep snacking on food all day long, carry food in your pocket or in your purse, on your desk, M&M's, soda, it's just like you have to smoke all the time. You have to go out for the smoke. You're food addicts. You can't tolerate not eating for 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, 7 hours. You can't take it not eating. You have no connectivity between your amount of calories your body needs, because I don't have time to get into this, I guess, but you get the point here. Just to change subjects for a minute, I was saying to my 20-year-old daughter the other day that more people die from food addiction than from cocaine addiction. And she said, so I said, like half the population dies of food addiction, only 1 in 100,000 dies of cocaine addiction. And she said to me, that's not really true because that's because less people snort cocaine, and if more people snort cocaine, then more people would die of cocaine. I said, Jenna, stop arguing with me. Of course you're right that that's because less people snort cocaine, but I'm still making a point here. The point I'm making is that people are people are all addicted to junk. And take Oakland, California, where they have 683 fast food restaurants and 1 supermarket, and most people in America in the inner cities are eating out of fast food restaurants, right? And I already told you we have 30% of people dying of cancer and 40% dying of heart attacks and strokes. But in these places where fast food restaurants congregate, and as you have less access to healthy foods and vegetables, you see even a higher rate of death from cancer and a higher rate of death from heart attacks and strokes. And we can plot that risk of death in proportion to the availability of produce in the area. As produce availability goes down, cancers and heart attacks go up. And we can ascertain the relative goodness or badness of any diet style we want to analyze based on the amount of high nutrient produce it contains, right? So getting into this idea that the more you sweeten and salt food, the more you add more oil to it. The fast food manufacturers have learned the way to get people addicted to their products. They put salt in the French fry batter. It's made from a batter. They put salt and sugar in the French fry batter that they fry then. They put salt and sugar into the burger meat. They add salt into the colas that you drink to make you want to drink more of it, and they put caffeine in them so you getting addicted to them. They add sugar. They know how to make people want to take bigger portions and not stop eating, so you can't stop eating. It's all designed to make people consume more food so they can die younger but consume more food in the process. And as you're eating this standard American diet, you are toxic just as if you're a cocaine addict, just as if you are an addict and you have toxins in your tissues. And you try to stop eating those toxins just like you're trying to stop heroin, and you may have to go away be locked up into a facility because you're going to feel like crap if you try to stop imbibing on all that junk. And fast food is powerfully addicting. And you have the teenagers already addicted to soda. They already get a buzz that they can't stop drinking soda. How many of you in the audience some of you guys might be caffeine addicts or soda addicts or sugar addicts? And don't underestimate the addictive nature of this. You see, the body has an anabolic phase of the digestive cycle and a catabolic phase. The anabolic phase is when your glucose level goes up because you're eating a meal and you're digesting the food after the meal. Right? It's like you take your car to the gas station and you fill it with gasoline. While you're fueling your tank, that's called the anabolic phase. The word anabolic means to build up, to build the tissue, to add things to the body. The anabolic phase, you're eating and digesting, you're adding to the body's storage sites. The catabolic phase is like when you take your car and you drive up to Tahoe, right? And you're going to utilize the fuel that you fueled the tank with. So the anabolic phase, we take the glucose we stored in the body, and now we're driving it, we're going to utilize that glucose, we're going to break down the glycogen back into glucose, and that's called glycolysis, the breakdown of the stored glycogen back into glucose again, while we're going to live our life with no food intake coming in. And that's called the catabolic phase of the digestive cycle. Normally, you would enter the catabolic phase of the digestive cycle, And you would just be able to live until you utilize the glycogen, until your gas tank was empty, and you get a signal to eat, which I call true hunger. And when your glycogen starts to go down, you get a signal to eat to refuel your tank again. You drive into the gas station, you fill the tank. No American does that. Because the minute they even enter the beginning of the catabolic phase of digestion, they start to feel shaky and weak and ill. And I call that toxic hunger because they start to go through withdrawal. Because when your body's busy digesting food all the time, which is a body was intensive work of the body, it makes it so you can't detoxify and repair in the anabolic phase. You detoxify and repair and clean yourself in the catabolic phase, and mostly when you sleep, when your body's not doing anything. Americans don't tolerate that. They start to feel sick when they enter the detox phase, when they enter the catabolic. When they finish digesting, the body slows down its digestive activity. They start to feel the stomach is not, as the digestive tract is now empty, the intestines has finished absorbing, and instead of living off of the reserve, they're back refueling it again. That's like you drive your car back to the gas station. If you drive it just a half a mile, you're gonna put gas back in the tank again? You're just going to go all over the cement floor. It's going to fall out of your gas tank. The gas tank doesn't expand elastically like your body can. But what happens to the body is instead of you don't have a rigid body and a rigid gas tank. Your digestive tract expands. Your stomach gets bigger. It actually gets too big and grows to be bigger. And you start to accommodate to a larger stomach. Your body gets bigger and bigger. And you can't be overweight. You can't be underweight. You can't be a normal weight. You have to be overweight. What I'm saying here is that all Americans have to be overweight. If you eat, now let me say this again. If you're normal, and you eat American food that's so low in nutrients, then it would be normal to become overweight. It wouldn't be normal to be a normal weight. Because think about this for a minute. 90% of our population is overweight. That means 10% are close to a normal weight, but more than 10% of people are depressed, have occult cancers, have digestive disorders, have autoimmune conditions, are alcoholics or drug addicts, right? Or smoke cigarettes, to do something that can retard their weight. Maybe more than 90% would be overweight if we took only the healthy people and looked at them. We eat a diet in America, so we go into this phase of glycolysis and we have to eat. So people in America, because they don't feel well and they're not eating, they're forced to either eat too frequently or to eat a heavy meal with a lot of cheese and meat and oil and high caloric food. They have to keep their digestive tract going all the time so it stays digesting for a full 5 hours to make it up to the point where they get to the next meal again. They can't eat a light meal. They can't just have a salad and a banana or something that might be finished digested in an hour and a half, because they wouldn't make it. They'd feel too ill after that. So they either have a choice. Eat every couple of hours all through the day, or eat heavy meals. They have to overeat calories to feel okay. They have to overeat, they have to be overweight to feel okay. It's not just willpower here, it's human biology. It's the biology that this unhealthy, low-nutrient diet feeds hormones that promote fat deposition, and the low-nutrient diet feeds an appetite that can't be denied. And an avaricious discomfort that makes you have to fuel yourself with more calories than your body requires. You lose the connectivity between the body's need for calories and the amount of calories you desire. I'm claiming with healthy eating, they match. The amount of calories you desire are the amount of calories you require. You follow me now? If you pay attention to nutritional quality, and then you don't have to pay attention to quantity. If you're just paying attention to the quantity, you're going to have trouble keeping your calories. You have to weigh and measure food and always be in discomfort, wanting more food than you're supposed to be eating. You follow this slide now? This is the most complicated slide. Does everybody have any questions about this? That's the glucose curve. The glucose goes up, the glucose levels off, and then if the body starts to drop the glucose, you get a signal to eat called true hunger. True hunger is felt in the neck, usually here right here above the breastbone to the chin, right in this area of the body. It's not felt in your stomach and your head. It's not headache and weakness and fatigue. It's a drawing feeling in your neck and throat and the upper part of your chest. If you continue not to eat after you get hungry, it's not too bad. Your body can make glucose because you're not going to pass out. Your brain has to function on glucose. As you're sitting here listening to me talk, well, I got to finish this up real fast. your body breaks down glucose, can get it from muscle tissue, from amino acids to break down glucose, but we don't want to do that, so the body signals you to eat before that can happen. Did you follow that really quickly? Your body will break down glucose, will start to get a signal to eat. I'll finish this up. So the characteristics of hunger are increased salivation, heightened taste sensation, and these people lose, when they learn about this, after trying one diet after another their whole life, they're finally able to lose dramatic amounts of weight. Thousands of people who are successful the first time in their life. And Scott thought he was at the end when he reached 182 pounds. He's not trying to lose any more weight, but he's not on a diet. He's just trying to take care of his health, and he dropped another 10 pounds, not trying to diet or lose weight. He's just eating the amount of foods he desires at this point. And Ronnie had bypass surgery that didn't work. After 4 years, his blockages came back, who then had angioplasty. And the angioplasties, maybe because of the bypass, scarred up again and occluded and didn't function after 6 weeks after the procedure. Sent home to die, essentially, unable to walk even, without crushing chest pain. On many different medications, still over 100 pounds overweight. He Googled me. Hey, I'm at Google. He found me on the web. He Googled me, reverse heart disease something, came to the drfuhrman.com, started following my advice through the website, asking me in the Ask the Doctor forum, never met the guy, loses 140 pounds in 1 year, fit and trim with low body fat percent, no more heart disease, playing tennis, running, has his life back. Not a medically dependent, on medications addicted guy. These people get rid of their heart disease. Even the most advanced cases do. He's a good example because I only told you a mere fraction of Ronnie's story. If I can tell you the whole story, you wouldn't believe what this guy had to go through. He said, tell everybody, don't wait till you have a medical tragedy happen to you. Start your new life today before it happens, before you have to go through what I've had to go through. Right? These are Ronnie's, some of his figures, 300 pounds to 160 pounds in 1 year, 58-degree waist to 34-inch waist, 228 on cholesterol of 228 on medications, on 4 medications, 132 total cholesterol on no medications, and LDL cholesterol 148 to 75. Adrienne was overweight her whole life. Even as a kid, she was overweight. She was on the phone scheduling gastric bypass surgery when a friend interrupted her and said, don't. You got to see Dr. Fuhrman first before you go through gastric bypass surgery. She came to my office. I did see her in person, and I told her, give me 1 year. See if this doesn't make your life better. She's so excited. She's so thrilled. She's a great public speaker. She's so anxious to tell people what she's gone through. How she as a child had to wear special outfits that were custom made to fit her obesity. And now she lost 120 pounds in 1 year, and she's still losing weight. She's still much lighter than that now, than on this sum. That was the first year. I showed the slide for the first year. And now she's lost even more weight, of course, since then. But Teresa, these people lost another 100 pounds in her year, and this is her statistics, but I won't have time to go into. But these people, their sinuses go away. Bill, obviously got rid of his diabetes, lost 100 pounds, lower blood pressure. He eats food that makes him feel good and provides good nutrition. He said now he craves good food. These people are enjoying their life more. They're enjoying eating more. I'll have to speed up because we only have a few minutes left. It's a vegetable-based diet. The regular diet's grain-based, obviously. It's focused on nutrient density. I think you got the point here comparing Eat to Live or my nutritarian diet. The word I coined to describe a diet rich in nutrients is called nutritarian, based on the micronutrient density of foods by adding up not just 1 or 2 nutrients, but by adding up many different nutrients, including the phytochemical scores, antioxidant scores, the glucosinolates, the things that are adding up all the nutrients, giving people an idea where the nutrients come, where the nutrient power comes from, to give them an opportunity really to extend human lifespan. My pyramid, or nutritarian food pyramid, is based on putting vegetables the base and putting foods based on their healing and potential qualities, and then going to smaller amounts. The foods Americans eat, animal products and oils and sugars and sweets, should be eaten rarely, or much smaller amounts than we're eating today. The Changing Perception of Hunger study, published in Nutrition Journal. You can look it up it's an open access journal, which means you can go to nutritionj.com, and you can write in Fuhrman, hunger, and you can look it up right on their website and read the whole article. Open access journal, you can no charge, you can read the whole article, where I took, I think it was 764 participants, followed this program, showing them that the changing perception of hunger, how their hunger changed, how their desire to overeat, they lost their addictive drive to overeat food. The study was called The Changing Perception of Hunger on a High Nutrient Density Diet, showing that people lost their drive to overeat and changed where they felt hunger. Right, where they thought they were feeling hunger in their head or in their stomach went away, and now they're feeling hunger in a different part of the body, describing the fact that this is a unique discovery. I'm claiming here that I'm making a unique contribution to the field of nutritional science with describing that what most Americans and even the medical textbooks describe as hunger is really not hunger. We think that withdrawal is hunger. And real hunger, most people don't feel because their dietary quality isn't sufficient to be in touch with that. And that's a unique concept that other people are not talking about, and nobody's talking about, I guess. And this nutritarian diet style has been students, and some studies have been done on it. In the medical journal Metabolism in 2003, it was found that even in 6 weeks that LDL cholesterol dropped by 33%, which is more powerful than most studies on cholesterol-lowering drugs. So the nutritarian prescription is to eat beans and fruit and nuts and seeds and large salad and green vegetables and some mushrooms and onions. To eat the amount of these foods that the scientific studies shows to afford people dramatic amount of protections. For example, a 71-country study in Europe showed that people who ate onions in the highest quartile of onion consumption had between a 50 and 80% reduction in almost all cancers, just from their consumption of onions. So because of reading the studies, I'm trying to put more raw onion on my salad. I eat salads today. I didn't know about these studies 3 years ago. I pay more attention to eat raw onion on my salad. I pay more attention to put mushrooms into my vegetable dishes. I didn't know about. Even I've changed my diet in the last 5 years just from the studies coming out of the power of some of these superfoods. And so when you start out, you're going to feel a little ill, but it goes away, and then of course you get to be a black belt and you feel great, but you try to eat unhealthy when you're a black belt, and then you feel lousy. The opposite, when you're a white belt, you try to eat healthy, you feel lousy. And a black belt's so used to feeling healthy that if then they go off their diet, they feel ill and congested and pasty, and they don't even enjoy that food as much because they've lost their attraction to the unhealthy foods. So what makes this unique is the high nutrient eating, the nutritional excellence leading to a lowered biological drive for calories, putting you back in touch with the instinctual sensations the body produces that will direct you to the right amount of food you need to eat to maintain your perfect weight without having to resort to dieting, weighing, measuring, or going around feeling hungry. Because if you feel real hunger, go eat. And you're not overeating. You're listening because you're eating the amount of calories the body needs to maintain its lean body mass. I'm ready for your questions and answers. My website is drfuhrman.com. Obviously, I raise money for nutritional research, and I'm research director of the Nutritional Research Project of the National Health Association, and we're directing. So so if you're interested in that, that's nutritionalresearch.org. We're doing a study. We're doing some studies this year on heart disease reversal. We're starting a breast cancer prevention study this summer. A lot of exciting stuff. And the nutritionaleducation.com is just my site for people who want to take this as a career, as coaching and learning to become like a nutritional coach for people who want to do nutrition more as a career. But my basic website is drfuhrman.com. Thank you. The question is about people who are metabolically active because they're a runner, physically fit, a fitness enthusiast, burning a lot of calories. How do you modify the diet to those people's higher caloric needs? And I'm one of those people, And most of what I present is a diet style for people to lose weight. And my book, Eat to Live, my best-selling book, my newest book is called Superimmunity. This was about immune system and protection against cancer. Eat to Live is probably a weight loss book. The recipes are predominantly weight loss favorable recipes. And for us people who are more physically fit have to eat more nuts and seeds, even sunflower seeds and Mediterranean pine nuts and things with more protein and more starchy vegetables and more beans and more food in general. And just like a woman who's pregnant, who requires more of certain nutrients, and let's say requires more protein. An athlete or a weightlifter requires more protein. If they're getting about 50 grams of protein per 1,000 calories, what if they requiring 150 grams of protein, but their calories go up now from their exercise? And now instead of requiring 1,000 calories, they're requiring 3,000 calories, and because they're getting 50 grams per 1,000 calories, they are now getting their 150 grams of protein met because their protein goes up in proportion to their caloric needs went up. So yes, we can increase the calories with better design of the diet. We can add more of the higher protein plant foods. I still want to advise my world-class athletes who are still eating some animal products not to be on a diet so heavy in animal products. Use them in lighter amounts and fill in with more plant protein because they get better performance and better health and better immune system support, because some of these world-class skiers and world-class tennis players I advise don't want to get sick and catch flus and viruses, and so they can't compete and continue their training. So we still reduce their animal protein intake and give them more high-protein plant foods. But thanks for the good question. Yes?
Which of your books is best targeted at if you were sold by the pitch and you said, okay, well, now I'm worried about withdrawal. How do I deal with this withdrawal as I get onto the healthy lifestyle?
You know, I explained the withdrawal, how it can be relatively uncomfortable, but keep in mind the degree of uncomfort, the strong degree of discomfort for people eating a really poor diet is very short-lived, much more short-lived than a person quitting cigarette smoking. So a person quitting cigarette smoking feels bad for a full 6 weeks, and a person quitting an unhealthy diet only feels really bad for the first 4 to 6 days. Like I do these immersion programs for Whole Foods Market where they take their sickest and heaviest employees and they put them in a hotel with us for a whole week to be immersed in learning this information and to motivate them to change their life forever. And we see people at my getaways and immersions who feel really poor for the week. But by the end of the week, they're all feeling okay.
So is it you're almost, if I'm inferring, you can say, yeah, you can almost go cold turkey and you'll feel crappy for a few days, but that's okay.
That's exactly right. And some people, you know, and you could ask me the question, well, is it better if people cold turkey or move gradually into this program? And the answer is that some people individually do better when they cold turkey it because they keep that food addictions going and it keeps dragging them back to want to go eating other junk again. And for other people, they just can't jump in. They're better off getting used to a healthy diet little by little. So that's why I have like I teach both methods so people can pick the way that's best for them. But if you really asked me what I really wanted people to do, I'd want them to jump cold turkey into it because it's so hard for people to to go be half their leg in both worlds because they still have the addictive cravings and they still want to get the drive, you know. But I realize that if you put this out to a huge audience, that the vast majority of people are never going to adopt a diet as aggressive and nutritionally sound as I recommend because it's too far away from the norm and people just can't take that big of a step, and that's why I allow them to do it in a more graduated fashion. So I can reach a bigger audience doing it less strictly. Yes, thank you.
You advise people not to eat cheese on a regular basis,
Right.
But I read somewhere that hard cheese has vitamin K2, which is
Right. Yeah.
anti-allergenic. So isn't it healthy to eat
Right.
hard cheese every day?
Right. One of the questions was that there's a beneficial nutrient called Cave2 that's in cheese and also in fermented soy products and some other products, and where most of the vitamin K in vegetables, which is green vegetables, very high in vitamin K, but that's K1 and not quite as effective as K2. However, you're getting huge amounts of K in your green vegetable consumption diet, and so you can benefit from small amounts of K2, may give you the benefits of large amounts of K1, and that you can always take a supplement with K2 if you wanted, but it's not worth the risk factor of having enough cheese in your diet to get sufficient vitamin K and K2. So I'm saying that's a minor benefit that doesn't overweigh all the negatives of eating cheese in your diet. So if you're using cheese, use it in such small amounts that it's just a flavoring for something and not in an amount that has enough ounces to affect your health. Yes, next question.
I have two questions. The first one is, on this diet, do you need a multivitamin? And then the second one is, what are your thoughts on like the natural sweeteners like stevia and agave and like?
Okay, there was two questions. The first question was about multivitamins, and the answer is, as your diet approaches closer to a vegan diet, you're not going to get B12. And also, as you cut the salt out of your diet might be low in iodine, because unless you eat seaweed or kelp. And the other nutrients that may be low on a vegan diet could be borderline low for zinc, and the other nutrient that could be low is DHA from fish oil. And so there's vegan sources of B12. You can have a B, So the answer to your question is yes. To maximally optimize your health, because of course most of us work indoors, and I don't live in Southern California, though I may in the near future, but I live in the Northeast in New Jersey. And so most of us work indoors anyway, and especially as your skin tone is darker, you're going to produce less vitamin D, because vitamin D is predominantly the sunshine vitamin. So the issues here are, the main issues are vitamin D, B12, vitamin D, zinc, and iodine. So just the judicious use of supplements would be appropriate. But my major problem with most multivitamins are that folic acid is not the same as folate that you get from natural foods. And folic acid has been shown in multiple studies now to increase the risk of breast cancer, prostate cancer, and other cancers. And women are just programmed and taught to take, and all folic acid and other vitamins. And almost every study and everything I've said to you today didn't come from one study. I don't say anything coming from one study, just I come multiple studies, and whether the one study has certain flaws or not, when you put all the studies together, the overwhelming evidence is important that we do consider what I'm saying seriously here, and that we do use these superfoods appropriately, because we don't want to err on the side of not benefiting from things that we know are going to be good for us anyway.
It's not in the price. The Commission says don't rely on multivitamins. It's probably.
And the reason why some of these people say don't rely on a multivitamin, because they're looking at the multivitamins produced today that have vitamin A in them, and folic acid in them, and vitamin E in them, and iron in them, and there's other, so the isolated beta-carotene, there's too many elements in traditional and cheap multivitamins. Isolated beta-carotene instead of mixed set of carotenes in food. Vitamin A causes osteoporosis and increased risk of cancer. The other dangerous things are folic acid and, what was the last one? Iron for men especially, who are not, the excess iron. So, but basically folic acid and vitamin A are the most toxic things you could take that shouldn't be taken in a vitamin. Yes. Okay, great.
One of the other causes of overeating is just cultural habits, or my body clock says, okay, it's noon, I better eat, or I'm thinking, I got a long afternoon, I better eat.
Right, and fun, and recreational eating too. So yeah, you're saying that besides just the drive to eat, even if you didn't have the toxic hunger, eating is fun, it's recreational. I have the time now, I'm not going to have the time later, and you're not always in tune with your biological clock. And you're right that I, as a nutritarian, maybe a black belt nutritarian, don't always eat only when I'm hungry. I sometimes eat recreationally when I'm not hungry. I sometimes eat because I have the time to eat now. I know I'm not going to have to eat later, but I still, I'm trying to. But I do get real hunger probably at least once a day, maybe not at every single meal. But I'm still in touch with my hunger enough to know that if that's happening, then I'm going to have to wait longer till I eat the next time. I'm still keeping it in the back of my mind. So what's your question? You're just making making an observation.
Well, it sounded like you were saying, like, you go your way and you'll only eat when you're hungry, da-da-da.
Well, not always. You got to live in the real world too. But it does give you enough guidance to help you know how much you should eat, right? And also, what I'm saying is that you'll have less drive to overeat. But a lot of people could follow a real healthy diet. You won't be forced to overeat because of these feelings, but you could still overeat on a nutritarian diet. There are still people who eat this way and are overweight because they're just like eating so much and they're just eating recreationally, because they're so used to overeating, they're going to eat anyway, even though they don't have to overeat. They're not physically driven to overeat as much, but you could still do it. Yeah, Okay, yes.
What do you think about fasting?
The question is about fasting, and the answer is that the animal studies on fasting shows that when you episodically withdraw food, they live longer. I think that it's most likely, and I utilize fasting therapeutically for people with certain conditions, like resting bowel disease, episodically fasting patients with lupus to help, with diet change, to help have the immune system reset to a lower level. Utilize fasting with asthmatics, for example, that work very effective in asthmatics who can't get off their inhalers, to stop the inflammation, to get them free of medication use. So I think fasting is therapeutically effective, and it most likely is lifespan enhancing to do it episodically in life. But nor do I think it's a recommended technique or modality for most people, because it only should be utilized in people who are very healthy, who are already eating a healthy diet and have no nutritional deficiencies, whereas the average American is grossly and dramatically nutritionally deficient. They are overweight and malnourished simultaneously, and fasting would not be an appropriate intervention for them. Thank you.